And rattan is a vine and it bends, bamboo doesn't. So if you have a piece that's all straight pieces, you have bamboo. But if you have something curvy, has any curves in it, it's probably rattan.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Capital Vintage Charm School. I am so excited about today's guest, Marcie Millholland. She is from the Instagram post made by Molly's mom. And if you've been around this summer, Marcie, you have started in my little Instagram circle or my little corner of Instagram, the pleated lampshade revolution, and I couldn't thank you enough for that because you have saved me a fortune this summer.
You are welcome. I almost didn't record that tutorial. I was like, it's so simple. I don't even know if it's worth it, but it's so fun and easy, and they look real.
They do. Okay, so when we get done with this, I meant to say this earlier before we started taping, but when we get done with this, I need your help because when I do the tops, they just don't look good. So I need some.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
Insider secrets.
That's right. So Marcie is here to talk to us today about bamboo furniture. And if you've seen pictures of my house, you know that I am completely in love with vintage bamboo. It just adds such warmth. And I just love the texture and, you know, the way it kind of plays off of wood. So Marcie, I am so excited. I know nothing about it except that I like it. So I'm very excited to talk to you today about it.
Well, thank you. That's how I started. I didn't know anything about it, but I loved it, which went back really to my childhood on coastal South Carolina. You know, old beach houses always have those random hand-me-down bamboo pieces and rattan pieces out there. And I just always loved them. And I used to imagine, you know, how I could make them be better in a house, kind of design in my head, even when I was little.
I love that. Wait, so we'll get into this, but I want to know now, was there like a piece that stands out to you from your childhood that you remembered thinking like, I love this, or this is my grandmother's favorite bamboo piece, or?
Not in particular. The first piece I really remember kind of thinking that I wished I could paint it or do something about it was a faux bamboo bed that I slept in. And I don't remember where it was exactly, but it creaked horribly. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, every time you moved, it made a horrible sound, but I loved that bed and I would always take it out at the beach house and stay in it. But I used to think this would look so great if it were painted white or bright blue, you know? So.
I love that. That's how everybody got their start, right? Like with
right.
Childhood and. So Marcie, let's start at the beginning. So we did a charm school with Ashlyn Goldberg, and she went through and kind of described some of the different natural fibers for us. And we covered bamboo slightly, but didn't really get into in depth on it. So can you tell us what is bamboo?
Okay, so bamboo is actually a grass. It's incredibly strong. They say it's as strong as mahogany, which is, you know, a very tough wood for furniture, that it's structurally sound. And if you think about like old World War II movies and you see bamboo structures that, you know, they've made fencing for the prisoners in Asia, and they actually built buildings out of it, you know, these temporary camps that they built and stuff. So it's very, very strong, and they've been using it, you know, in Asia structurally for centuries. So, but it's a grass. It's kind of crazy. And it's often confused with, and we're going to talk about both of these because they're almost interchangeable in our vintage world, even though they're very different. And then there's rattan. And rattan is a vine, and it bends, bamboo doesn't. So if you have a piece that's all straight pieces, you have bamboo. But if you have something curvy, has any curves in it, it's probably rattan. And rattan is also, both of them, bamboo and rattan, grow in you know, Asia and Indonesia and places like that. And they're very sustainable because they grow very quickly and easily. Bamboo can grow up to 24 inches in a day. I mean, it's in the perfect conditions. And you're from the South, you know, it's a plague in the South. If you plant it in your backyard, even here, it takes off. Then you've got to try to eradicate it somehow. But that's the confusion, is bamboo is straight, it's hollow. Rattan is solid, It's a vine and it will bend. So a lot of pieces that are advertised as bamboo are rattan and vice versa. And wicker is when the fiber is woven. So a lot of wicker is actually rattan. Natural wicker is rattan. So anything curvy, rattan. Anything straight, bamboo.
So, you see like even in the stores today, like Anthropology, some of these types of stores that are doing like the bamboo headboards where it's like the piece that's stretched. That's not, you can't get bamboo to stretch or to curve at all. Oh, so that would be something else.
Yeah, it really, even on really upscale sites, like Cherish or First Dibs, of course, they don't make the listing, the seller does. But these sellers, I was looking last night just to confirm this, many of the listings say rattan bamboo table, rattan bamboo chair, or bamboo rattan chair. It's even confusing for people who resell in vintage, or maybe they use it because we're all confused and think it's the same thing. So that, I always search rattan, bamboo, and wicker when I'm looking, because there's so much confusion, with vintage buyers and sellers, and even dealers, because it is almost interchangeable in our vernacular, even though they're very different technically.
Marcie, that is so good to know. So what do you think is the popularity with bamboo? When did it, well, let me back this up. I think for me, in my vintage mind, I think of bamboo and I start thinking about like the 60s and the 70s and stuff like that. When do you think it came into popularity and why?
So I think the answer is, when wasn't it popular? Okay. I mean, it's really historically been around forever. There are literally wicker woven pieces in King Tut's tomb. So made out of cane, that have a rattan look. But, and of course, as I said, it's been used in Asia forever and ever and ever, for centuries. But in the late 19th century is kind of when it hit Europe and the US. Pieces were being imported and they were seen as exotic and desirable. And if you think about it, the Victorians were they were the adventurous crew. They went out and collected plants and built solariums so they could have plants from all over. And they had beautiful homes with collectibles from all over the world. So they fell in love with basically rattan furniture because they liked the ornate woven curlicue stuff. Right. So it was really the rattan furniture. And then it just boomed from then. It was popular in the 1930s, again, with the Hollywood glam scene. So again, a resurgence. And then in the 50s, for a little while, post-war, it was popular as kind of a trendy outdoor furniture, the bamboo pieces that were imported. And then, of course, the 70s, huge resurgence with people like, Millholland and, I'm trying to think, Albini and some of those people. And so that was hugely popular. And then again, here we are collecting all of that. Vintage is big. And a lot of manufacturers are using bamboo for new furniture now because it's strong and sustainable, and we're looking for that. Right. Buyers who are buying new are looking for responsibly sourced furniture materials. So it's really, bamboo and rattan have been forever popular.
So, Marcie, this is so fascinating. I love the point that you made earlier about when you're searching, you do rattan, bamboo, and wicker. So, like if you're on, so let me ask you this. If you're on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or Cherish or whatever, and you're looking for a piece, would you search all three of those names to see if a piece popped up?
I do. And I will try. So let's say if I'm looking for a bamboo table or rattan table, I'll search bamboo table, vintage rattan, I'll put all of those combinations together because you just never know. It's weird. I'll search vintage bamboo table and look at the tables, and then I'll search vintage rattan table, and a table will come up that didn't come up under bamboo.
Huh.
So it's, people label things different ways. So it's, it's valuable to me to search all of those names.
That's such a good tip. So back to some of the manufacturers and stuff that you were mentioning, I don't even know how to ask this, but what are some of the, maybe the answer is everybody. I don't know. What are some of the notable manufacturers that you think that we would see out on the hunt who made bamboo furniture?
Okay, so with true bamboo furniture, the straight bamboo furniture, a lot of that is imported from Asia and has been for years. And a lot of it isn't labeled or stamped. It's more of a handmade, almost an artisan type thing. Okay. There is mass-produced bamboo furniture, but a lot of the pieces that I have that are just straight up bamboo are very handmade with pegs, and they fold up, and they're very, very clever. A lot of the little shelves and folding tables and things came back with soldiers. They brought these pieces back to their homes, and so a lot of those aren't stamped or labeled. Where you find the manufacturer history and the desirability is more in rattan and faux bamboo. Okay. And there are a lot of names in that. And I made actually some notes, but for us, I think for vintage collectors now, Henry Link is a big name. And people find that very desirable. I will tell you, if I like a piece, I don't care who made it. If the integrity of the piece is there, or I think I can fix what's wrong with it, it doesn't matter to me. But Henry Link is a recognizable name. And interestingly, Henry Link started a company originally called Dixie. And you may have heard of Dixie Aloha. Yeah,
I didn't realize that was the same.
So he started that company in, let me think, in 1936. So a lot of Dixie Aloha pieces are around, and they can be as old as, from the 30s. And so that was a faux bamboo line. And that was, the faux bamboo kind of emerged out of, again, the late 19th century. Those exotic pieces were coming into Europe and America. And because they were exotic and imported, they were expensive. But local furniture makers started mimicking the bamboo look. And that was kind of the birth of faux bamboo. And a lot of great faux bamboo pieces are English and French and don't necessarily have a maker's mark, So, but anyway, Henry Link started Dixie, and Dixie Aloha was a big brand, and there was a ton of stuff manufactured, which is why people are still finding a lot of it. And then it became Henry Link Co., and they continued to, manufacture things, and it's stamped with Henry Link. And now Lexington owns the Henry Link brand. Mm-hmm. So every once in a while, I think I read that they, had a resurgence about 10 or 15 years ago where they manufactured a run of Henry Link furniture. But so that's a big name. And then in the 50s, there was a company called Ritz, R-I-T-T-S, mm-hmm. and they manufactured a line called Tropican, and it was all in the natural bamboo or natural rattan look, and it was wildly popular. And it's the bigger, rounded pieces, almost like the pretzel chairs and things like that you see, the chunkier, sturdier look. Those were Ritz Tropican pieces, and those were wildly popular. For one reason, because Hawaii had become a state, and everybody in America wanted to go, 1959, I think, is that right? Hawaii became a state, or I don't even know, but anyway, somewhere in the 50s, Hawaii became a state, and everyone wanted to go to Hawaii. So there was that huge 60s and 70s boom for tropical furniture, which was bamboo and rattan. So
it's so cool.
Think about Blue Hawaii with Elvis. or Gidget Goes Hawaiian. I mean, everybody was eating that up. So that was part of it. Then the other side of that time period was the very contemporary pieces that were being designed and coming out of California, like McGuire pieces.
Yes.
That's another name that you hear. And I understand, I've asked some people about that. I've had a couple of chairs that were, McGuire look, and you'll see things even on Cherish advertised as McGuire style. Those pieces were all handmade and signed. And so my understanding from some other dealers is that it's hard to find one that still has the signature on it. So knowing for sure that it's a McGuire piece is difficult. And there are people who can look at all these little details and tell you for sure, give you some provenance on it.
Right.
But that's why we love it in this country is, why we have this boom and why we have this plethora of pieces. And of course, then there's Florida, and there were manufacturers all over Florida making these tropical pieces of furniture. I have a lot of pieces that have little stickers on them that say, manufactured in Lakeland, Florida. And it's some obscure company's name, but the pieces are great.
Yeah. That is so fascinating. I think one of the things that I have enjoyed the most about Charm School is I'm such a self-proclaimed history nerd. And, we talked about this earlier, but like living in DC, I mean, it's everywhere. There's a reason for everything. And, being able to always kind of, I don't know, take a step back and look at like manufacturing at the time and what that looked like, or again, it almost always comes back to some kind of war, doesn't it? Like there was a boom after, and it opened up trade in a way that we didn't have before. Anyway, it constantly fascinates me, but I've never thought of the states joining the union and how that would have affected things. That is absolutely fascinating, Marcie.
Yeah, I think, I can remember as a child, like Hawaii was my dream. I wanted to go to Hawaii. I can't tell you how many times I've watched Blue Hawaii or Gidget Goes Hawaiian. It's embarrassing.
I love Gidget. She's my dream. So wait, have you been to Hawaii?
Yes, twice.
Oh, good. Well, maybe we need to put a third time on that list, huh?
Yes, eventually.
So these are some maybe silly questions, but I've been in situations before where I can't, it's not plasticky enough for me to decide, is this real or fake? Obviously, sometimes you can like flick it, right? And you can feel that like plastic, or you can kind of hear that little ting. Do you have any thoughts on how to identify if it's real or fake besides just being straight?
Well, if it's real bamboo, it's pretty easy. It's the rattan that's tricky. Some of that new manufactured rattan is difficult. And, you don't want to be destroying something, trying to scrape your fingernail on it and see, but you can go underneath a piece and kind of flick and see. If it's an old rattan wicker woven piece and you scratch on the bottom and you don't have that fiber feel, it feels still plasticky, because let's face it, the paint is not that great that it's not going to scrape or flake a little bit, even if it's been repainted with spray paint somewhere along the way, you should be able to underneath get that feel, of the fiber. But some of it is very convincing.
That's helpful. This straight bamboo thing just kind of blew my mind. I am admittedly one of those resellers who would say like rattan, bamboo, whatever, because I didn't always know.
Well, and that's what people are searching for. They think it's kind of interchangeable, so you have to offer that title, out there. But to go back to what you said about the making sure it's the real thing, with anything, turn it over and look at the bottom. I don't care what it is. If you're shopping vintage, look at the bottom. That's such a tip off on everything. Porcelains, wood furniture, if something is fairly new or shoddily built, the underneath will tell the story, I think.
So Marcie, what are some different types of things that we would find made out of bamboo? We talked about shelves and furniture and stuff, but some of the chairs, like you were talking about the pretzel chairs. So anything that's curved like that, we immediately know is going to be a rattan, right?
Right, right. And occasionally you will run across a combo piece. I have a shelf on my back porch that is rattan, but it has straight bamboo door front and shelves that are lashed together, and they are very definitely bamboo, but then it's an arched shelf, it's curved like this, and it has woven sides, which are obviously rattan. Generally, you find rattan pieces or bamboo pieces, but there are some combo pieces.
Okay, that's helpful. So what other types of bamboo would we find? And I'm leading this to more of like when you see it and it looks so much more tortoise shelled than maybe the natural, and that's called burned bamboo, correct?
Right, and it's literally burned.
So they literally torch it. And
you'll see it listed as torched or burned, sometimes tiger bamboo even.
Okay.
But it's literally torched. It's it's an old Asian technique, and it's literally just burnt a little bit. On my cabinet that I'm talking about on the porch that has the bamboo front, you can actually see a little bit of bubbling, from the heat. It's just a little bit textural. And it's obviously burned, but when you step back, and look at it from a distance, it has that tortoise shelly striped tiger look, but it's literally torched, burnt.
So would most of the bamboo, would we find it lacquered or protected, or are we going to find it natural? Like, what are the different ways that we might find it?
So you might find it lacquered, but one of the beauties of bamboo is that it's naturally shiny after it dries, and it's a little bit porous and it's hollow, so it breathes in moisture and stuff like that. So a lot of pieces that we find now, vintage pieces, the lacquer the gloss has worn off, and a lot of pieces never had it because it is something that can get wet and dry out, and those kind of things. And so sometimes people do lacquer it. I will tell you, I have kind of a bad story about trying to give something a coating, so I'll just share that. I read an article on a blog a few years ago that they had sealed a rattan bark heart that they were going to leave pretty much on their patio throughout the summer. They didn't have to worry about too much rain, and they used a product to really take care of this piece and make it weatherproof, and they use something that is normally put on a deck, and it's a name water seal. Okay. And they raved about how great it was and how much protection it was. And this was actually quite a while ago. I was looking at a piece for the porch, and I was worried about it, and so I thought, okay, this piece doesn't look great. I'm going to put this blank water seal on it. And I did, and it never dried correctly. It messed up the piece, it raised kind of the texture of it. It was a disaster. I spray painted a gorgeous blue, and it looks fabulous after I stripped all that stuff off, but it just didn't react well with the natural fiber. And that's one of the things about using natural fibers, is you don't have to put fake stuff on it for it to last and hold up, because it's from nature, So I don't seal any of my pieces with something glossy. I do clean them, and do some things to them, but I don't seal them up anymore. That was a lesson learned.
So let's talk about that really quick. So you mentioned earlier that it can get wet, which is why we see a lot of pieces made for porches and kind of that, that tropical feel like you were talking about earlier. Define wet, like splashed, or like we should not leave it outside on a deck unprotected, correct?
So it is long lasting, and it can get wet, if it dries out. And there are people who leave bamboo pieces outside. I have some pieces that I can tell were outside, that I got, and I've freshened up a little bit. Um, of course, it's going to last much longer if it's a little bit protected. You know, I have pieces on my screen porch, and I don't store them through the winter. And we have a lot of moisture in Georgia. You know, I mean, we have a lot of humidity in the summer. We have a lot of rain in the winter, in the fall, and the spring, and things get damp. But as long as they dry out, then, you know, they're fine. But I have a bamboo fountain, you know, and it's wet all the time and water runs through it all the time. And I've had it, you know, 2 or 3 years now, and it looks brand new. So if you think about that, you know, the Japanese bamboo fountains are wet all the time. So, you know, it comes from the tropical jungle, you know, and stands up.
You're making me rethink this, because I'm looking for some patio furniture for my back deck that's not covered, and you know, of the vintage lover in me wants it to look like something out of a Slim Aaron's photo.
Don't we all?
Right?
Yes.
And I keep going back to it, and I'm like, I don't know if I should go that route, or if I should just get something protected. But now you're kind of talking me into it.
I have read that the sun is more damaging, you know, constant sun is more damaging to it than moisture, because it dries it out.
So do you oil your pieces? Tell me how you clean them. Let's go through 2 scenarios. You get it and that bad boy is gunked up. Tell me how you would clean him.
So the best thing that I have found, and I've researched this too, and pretty much everybody says the same thing: mild detergent and water, and you just take it outside, and you don't power wash. You don't want to power wash it. I just use the hose without a sprayer on it, and, you know, a little soft brush, and soap it up and rinse it off and leave it in the sun to dry. Now, if it's winter, I have been known to get in the shower with a piece of bamboo and soap it up and rinse it off in the shower and blow a fan on it, you know?
Marcie, you are a woman after my own heart. I bow to you. That is dedication to vintage.
But, and then I have a product, and, you know, certainly not sponsored here, but I have a product that I like by 7th Generation. It's just their basic wood cleaner, and it's clean, and it has a great smell, and it's not oily. It doesn't shine it up. It just cleans it. And I will take a rag and do that, you know, in between some. And then if I have something, I have a piece on my porch. It's a big upholstered piece, and the rattan on it was worn when I got it somewhat. It's been on somebody's porch, I think, you know, for a long time. And I occasionally will just dip a really soft cloth in, like an old t-shirt, in coconut oil, and just rub some coconut oil on it. You know, it doesn't leave a residue, and it's inexpensive, and it's natural, and, you know, they're from the same region, so I figure it's a good blend.
Do you try to do that yearly? Like, is that every spring when you're putting your patio or your porch together? Is that like something you try to do, or just when you think about it?
So in a perfect world, it would probably be done every, you know, few months. But when we have to knock the pollen off of every single surface here 2 or 3 times in the spring. So somewhere in one of the pollen knockoffs, I try to, you know, hit it with a little bit of coconut oil. Things in the house actually dry out a little more because, of course, you know, the heat runs in the winter and stuff like that. And I use that wood cleaner. But if something looks like it's getting a little dried out looking or needs a little rejuvenation or life, I just hit it with a little coconut oil, and it works like a charm. I've read boiled linseed oil. I've read a lot of different things, but that bad blank water seal experience has scared me away from anything that's not natural. Yeah. So, and we try to be very clean with our cleaning products and things around here anyway. So I like coconut oil.
And that's what you would use if the piece was in good shape, it just needed a little rejuvenation.
Yes. Yeah. You'll be amazed what it actually will do for a piece. And, you know, I don't mind my pieces looking like they've had a little love before. That's part of vintage.
I agree. I like the charm of the dings and the, you know, the little crusties here and there. I think that's
They have a story. Sometimes, you wonder, why is this corner so worn, or, whose dog chewed on this, and that kind of thing.
I have a chair that has a little dog spot on it, and I always laugh about that because it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
Well, Marcie, that was so helpful. If you have a few minutes, I would love to ask you a couple of questions that I ask everybody just to kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
What is your China pattern? Or do you have a favorite if you don't have one?
So I do have a China pattern. I can't even remember the name because it's, see the gray hair? It's been a long, long time. But funny enough, it's by Lennox, and it is just barely off-white with a tiny silver band. Very plain. My everyday dishes are white. I think food looks best on white dishes. I love when I see table settings, on Instagram. I love to look at them, but I don't know if it's because I have so many friends who are chefs and they're all about the food being the star or what. I love when people do these table settings, but I use like plain rattan placemats, white dishes, bamboo hand, I'm very, very plain with my dishes. I do have blue willow and I do use that sometime, but I'm a white dish person.
But you can't go wrong with the classic. I mean, there's a reason that it has withstood the test of time, right?
Right.
What are you currently hoping to find for your house? Like, what are you on the hunt for right now?
So, my house is full, but I will rearrange the entire thing for a good piece. Like, so I'm open to anything. I would love to find a really big ornate gold pagoda mirror for the deal of the century, like just one of those scores. I would love to have one of those. I have a lot of pieces I like. I will say, for a long time, I wanted a Brighton pavilion bamboo chair. And I looked, for years, I looked for them because they were, they're hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this, on websites. And I don't know, probably it's been 7 or 8 years ago now. I was on an app called OfferUp, which just didn't really catch on, but it was a great app for me for a while. And a woman had a pair of Brighton chairs and a table for a steal that she had just listed. And I messaged her and told her I really, really wanted them. And she said, I'll sell them to you. When can you pick them up? And I was leaving the next day to go to Honduras for work. And I literally was getting on a plane at 4:00 the next morning, and this was like noon. And I said, and I had 400 things to do. And I said, I want these so much, but I'm leaving to go on a mission trip for Honduras. And she lived about an hour and a half away. And I said, I would pay you. My husband could come tomorrow, whatever. And she was like, oh, honey, I'll just meet you over on your side of town and do some shopping. So she drove them literally to me, and she and her husband loaded them up in my car. They were such a great deal. And so not only did I get a pair of Brighton chairs and a table that I had been searching for forever, she was so kind and so sweet that I love them. So they were kind of my thing I was on the hunt for a long time. Now I'm open to anything. I've been searching for a bamboo baker's rack, like one that I saw. I had a bad Facebook Marketplace. I am on a bad Facebook Marketplace world.
I feel like it's just, I don't know if everybody got rid of their stuff at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm not loving what's going on Facebook right now.
Yeah, me either. And mine has been just, people say it's yours and then they sell it to somebody else. And I don't know, it hasn't been great. But there was this amazing bamboo baker's rack that I was going to rearrange some stuff in my kitchen for and turn into like a little coffee thing. And I tried to deal with the girl, and she just never would do what she was supposed to and get back to me and all. And so I keep searching for that, even though now I've decided maybe that's not what I want to do, but it's like, doggone it, it got away and I just want to find another one. I don't know. But I'm open to anything.
So is the Brighton table and chairs, is that your favorite vintage find?
It's definitely up there for sure. I mean, I love all my vintage pieces, and it'd be like choosing your favorite child to pick your favorite vintage find. I mean, you kind of love them. There's always a story, or, we love to go, I got that for $5.
I know, right?
I mean, I've never been so proud of paying so little. I love so many things. I get excited about them when I find them. And so it's hard to pick, but those were really a special find,
So now that you've done this for years and years and years, does your husband appreciate like the deal that you're getting in this?
So I think he does. He actually, he likes the hunt. He will go, when he travels, he'll go to Goodwill's for me and send me pictures. So I don't think he cares as much about the end product in the house, but he likes the search. So he sends me pictures. He works a lot in Florida, and so he'll send me pictures all the time. He just spent a month in Florida this spring, and he went to Goodwill, bless his heart, I think almost every day, just, looking.
See, I sit at the foot of the master. I don't know what you have done to make that happen, but that's going to be our follow-up charm school, because I guarantee everybody watching this wants your tips on that for sure.
I don't know how it happened, but he is a good searcher.
Well, I am jealous. My husband is a good face maker. Whatever I bring home, it's a that's
we have aged a lot in this process, and we have decided that we need to limit things to lighter pieces that we can move, or we're gonna have to start hiring people because our backs are getting too old for some of these big pieces.
Hear that. I hear that. Excuse me. So you mentioned this earlier, the baker's rack, but do you have something that's just haunts you at night that you haven't bought?
So not necessarily haunts me. I now would really like to find a black lacquered Asian cabinet or China cabinet for a spot that I have in this room that I'm redoing now. I have passed up 2 China cabinets in the past in that finish, but I had no place for them, and I didn't know anybody who was looking for them, and they were great deals, and I was bummed at the time. But and of course now I can't find one for anything. But I have been kind of looking for that, on the side, but it's not, if I don't find one, fine. It's not the piece that I've searched for forever.
I know. It's so hard because you see these things and you're like, I might want this at one point. But then you're like, isn't that the definition of a hoarder? I don't have room for it. Like, what am I supposed to do with it? And then it never fails that like a year later, you're like, I wish I'd have bought that thing because.
I know. I'm actually hoarding 2 Franco Albini pieces. I have a settee in storage. I just can't bear to get rid of because it was such a steal, and it's in perfect condition, and it's such a desirable piece. And then I have a Vietnamese fish. I don't think what they call them, fish trap table. And you'll have to look on Cherish. They're very unique, and I literally bought it, honestly, not knowing what it was. I had it out on the porch, posted a picture of the porch, and a friend DM'd me and said, oh my gosh, I love your Franco Albini Vietnamese fish trap table. And I'm like, oh, I bought it to stick a plant in. I had taken the top off of it. I just thought, oh, it'll be fun. It won't hold up forever with a fern in it, but it'll look great. And so I hopped on Cherish, which is a great resource if you want to learn things. And there they were for a lot. So I took the wet plant out of it and put the glass top back on it. And I was like, I need to decide about this because I generally buy my pieces because I love them and I want to use them, not for an investment or, not to resell them for a lot of money. But I also don't want to destroy a really nice rattan table with my plant. So I'm kind of torn. So I'm just hoarding it right now, trying to decide what to do. I think I'm going to sell it, but mostly I just buy these pieces because I love them.
So does your daughter share in this passion of yours? Or
yes.
Is she over it?
No, she likes it. And honestly, for all through college and, post-grad for them, she and her friends, I can't tell you how many times I've found a dresser or a desk or whatever, and I've sent the picture out to the girls on a group text. Who wants this wicker table? I can get rid of anything in just a second, I pretty much furnished a lot of their apartments and dorm rooms and things with cast-offs, but she does like it. She doesn't like all the same things, but she loves blue and white, and she likes the bamboo furniture. And she's a little more boho than I am, but not terribly, but just a little bit. But she, she has a fabulous peacock chair in her bedroom and an elephant garden stool, and so raised her right. What can I say?
That's right. I always tell my husband, let the chips fall where they may on the kids. I have zero expectations for anything. I really am trying very hard to, I will love regardless. But if my little girl, who is 15 months old, does not like to come antiquing and vintage shopping with me, I may disown her. That will break my heart. I think I can talk my 5-year-old into this. He's like, I think he would be into like the old soldiers and stuff like that. So I think I can talk him in, but I'm going to be very upset if she doesn't do this with me.
Well, I went with my mom. In fact, we closed my parents' house in February of 2020, and then, sat waiting to have an estate sale for months and all kinds of crazy, but we brought a ton of things home. My sister and I each to our homes, and I've been going through boxes. I'm still going through boxes of things. And I recently found the first thing that I bought out antiquing and thrifting with my mom. She wrote it on the back, and I was 6 years old. It's a little little metal sign with a whale on it. I don't know what appealed to me, but it did. And then I started collecting Green Depression glass when I was in middle school, and I won an essay contest. And my mother's friend who was in charge of the organization that was awarding for the essay contest, collected pink depression glass. And when we went to her house, she always served tea and lemonade in little cookies on all this pink depression glass. And I thought that was very fancy and very elegant and grown up. And but I loved the green. And so when I won that essay contest, she gave me a set of plates in Green Depression glass. And that just kind of sparked it. And, it was super cheap when I was young. People weren't really looking for it. So that was my second big collection, was depression glass.
Oh, Marcie, that's going to make me cry. That is the sweetest thing I have ever heard. Do you still have some of your depression glass?
I do.
So sweet.
It looks great with my Christmas china.
Oh, that's true. I bet it does. I bet it also looks really good for like Easter tablescapes and stuff too, huh?
Yes, with my white dishes.
Yeah, see? That's why you have white dishes, so you can use other things with them. So would you rather go to an estate sale or a flea market?
Oh my gosh. So I think each place that we find vintage has pluses and minuses. When my husband and I were first married, flea markets were kind of it, and we went to flea markets. Around here now, not so much. We don't have a lot of flea market options. And so I haven't been to a good flea market in a long, long time, but I would if I found one.
Me too. What about a thrift store or an auction?
So I love thrift stores. It's amazing what you can unearth in a thrift store. I constantly am standing in a thrift store going, I can't believe somebody got rid of this. And then I laugh because I think as I'm hauling this stuff out, people are probably walking in going, I can't believe she bought that. I have found things that I have a rug in my library that is not vintage. It's Ethan Allen, but I found it at a restore. A store was going out of business, and they donated all their inventory to a restore near me. And it's a $2,500 rug that I bought for $25. I looked it up when they told me it retailed for $25 and I was getting it for $25. I went, right, Sure. But then I went online and I looked, and it was available at Ethan Allen for $2,500, and it's all over eBay for $500 and $600. So, somebody donated and they had a stack of them, so it's amazing what you can unearth. And I have a mirror that I bought at a thrift store, has carving and pineapple on it. And for the life of me, the name of it went right out of my head. But I took a quick picture and posted on Instagram when I found it, and the guy DM'd me and said, I'll give you $800 for it right now. So I was like, okay, I have to look this one up, right? I need to know more about this. But I had paid $24.95 for it. And somebody donated it because they didn't, they inherited it or whatever, cleaned out somebody's house and they didn't like it. So I think thrift stores are an unending source of treasures if you're willing to dig.
I agree. This, I don't want to say resurgence because I don't think it's new. I think it's just we know more about it now because everybody's doing it on Instagram. But, I'm so happy to see this huge movement toward thrift stores and reusing and I mean, I'm completely obsessed with family heirlooms and things like that. So I'm so excited that we're starting to see that. The other part of me is like, stop doing that. Less for me at the thrift stores.
I know. I feel like
I want it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm channeling my dad sometimes. I go to the thrift store now and go, this stuff's gotten so expensive. What, why is, and I'm complaining about the prices at thrift stores now. Inflation is the goodwill, but I do love that we are doing that. I really love to see a circular economy. I love that people care about the history of old things. I think there's a whole generation of kids that have recently gone through school and don't know enough about history and the stories and appreciate them. So I love that they're caring about the furniture and stuff and starting to learn about it. Molly and I had a little booth together for a while, and in one of those big, antique mall kind of places. We just didn't have the time for it, but it was fun while we did it. But I was really encouraged to see how many of the dealers were 20-something-year-old girls with rattan and bamboo furniture and blue and white dishes and brown furniture and things like that, and really loving it and learning about it. So it is encouraging. And I love that we're not putting it in a landfill. That's important to me. And oh my gosh, we don't have the wood, the resources to build all these amazing pieces of furniture again, mahogany and things like that, and burl wood and things that have become scarce. I mean, our only chance is to save them from the landfill to have them,
I completely agree. I'm so glad that they've become treasures again. I don't want to say again, because I think that they've always been treasures, but I'm glad they're getting the attention, I guess, that they deserve is the way to say it. So this is my last question, and it's a good one to end on based off of the conversation we just had. And this is going to be a hard one. So if you need to pick 3 or something, you're welcome to. What is your most prized family heirloom?
So I have a gate-laid table that was in my grandmother's house in the Charleston area. And I played under it all the time. I have so many childhood memories of draping it with a sheet or play, because it had those funny legs. It was almost divided underneath, and I'd put, dollhouse rooms in it and things like that. So I was adamant that was what I wanted out of my grandmother's house. I have some blue opaline from her too, which I just love. I love. And I have some dishes and things, but that table is just, I can always remember that table, as a child. And so that's a piece that I grew up with and really loved. And then my great aunt and uncle had a pastel we have pretty much dated to about the 1870s that they bought, and they have some history on it. It was in San Francisco for a while, and then they bought it, and it lived in Missouri with them. And then my mother had it in her home. But it is of a very formally dressed woman, beautiful woman, holding a baby goat. And it's framed in this massive gold frame. I mean, in these big mats. It's huge with these big mats. And I love it. And I didn't even, it was at first going to go in the estate sale because I thought I don't have any place for it. And then I brought it home because we didn't want to sell it in the estate sale because it was, more valuable than we thought that maybe people would realize. And then I hung it on some nails in my library to keep the dog from knocking it over, and sent a picture to my sister and brother-in-law and said, look, and they're like, oh, I think you're meant to have it. It looks great there. And then I actually found a better home for it. But I think all the time, why was that formally dressed Victorian woman posing for this very formal portrait holding a baby goat. What is the story behind that? You know, I mean, don't I wish I knew?
The pride of the family goat.
Yeah, it's just the craziest thing, but it's it's beautiful, but it's just so funny. What was this woman doing holding this goat for this formal portrait? So that's a great piece that I have too. So both of those are pieces that I love, but I have a ton of family heirlooms. I mean, I have just so many things that were so special from both sides of my family. So that's nice. And I have a lot of old family photos, which I just have in blue and white bowls sitting on tables and things so that we'll pick them up and go through them. And,
that's
old
so
photos,
fun.
yeah, old photos are pretty special. I don't even know who some of the people are because they're not written on the back, but it's just neat to have those old family photos. I have a table on my porch, a table base on my porch that came out of my dad's great uncle's store in the 1870s, and I found an old family photo of the store, and I can see one of the table legs in it. So that's pretty awesome too.
Oh, fun. You need to frame that photo to put on that table.
I should. That's a great idea. I should.
That is so sweet. You are amazing. You have completely made my whole day, Marcie. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation with you today. Well, I learned so much, and you are just so wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for asking me. I've never done anything like this before, and I was quite nervous. And, I hope the info's been good, but I've enjoyed the chat anyway.
Marcie, you're a natural. I'm going to beg you to do more of this. Everybody, this is Marcie Millholland from Made by Molly's Mom. Go follow her on Instagram. I am telling you, you're going to want a vacation just alone on her porch, let alone the rest of her house. It is fantastic. Marcie, thank you so much.
You were so kind. Thank you.